With 2025 already full of expensive failures for, of course, the Marvel Cinematic Universe by both Marvel Studios and Disney, as Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are beginning to head into endless damage control over the reshoots and rewrites surrounding projects like Blade 2025, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and let's not forget about Captain America 4, which, by the way, held the most drama for the 2025 Marvel lineup. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, we already know that She-Hulk actress Tatiana Maslany already holds a massive grudge against Bob Iger as it is, not just because of what happened during the strikes, everything happening between WGA and SAG, but also a lot of things having to do with the She-Hulk character getting completely axed from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything revolving around She-Hulk and Deadpool 3, as we discussed a couple of days ago, and how she was supposed to be inserted into Season 2 of the series. Now, what's interesting about this further is that we know that Tatiana Maslany is one that typically blames the toxic male fandom, or the toxic male demographic, quote-unquote, so to speak, connected to the Marvel community, as basically. Now, when you look at Tatiana Maslany, she's no different than those like Brie Larson or others like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and among other actresses that continue to really blame the male audience. And we've seen this happen, of course, with Sony, with the Madam Web film, with one of the cast members, of course, doing the same exact thing. However, on top of everything here, with She-Hulk actress Tatiana Maslany already getting involved in heated arguments with the Disney heads after her recent firing from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and various projects connected to it all, one major development has to do with Tatiana's response, once again, to the fans, and to the public in general, after her firing from both Bob Iger and Kevin Feige. She delivered the following. As an actress and one who supports feminism, I find it to be very offensive in how hypocritical these studios can be when they promise you a full slate of films or other projects to star in, and they, right out of nowhere, they decide that they want to change of plans due to a loud, toxic side of the fandom holding this fear against women. I thought it was awful with how Bob handled the promotion and PR of the Marvels. It was outright lazy, and I think in my case with She-Hulk, that deserves better. I mean, they just blew their budget for Season 2 and completely sabotaged any plans I had for the many films I was about to be involved in. I had my whole career planned out at least for 10 years plus with the MCU, and watched it all go through these challenges aren't so surprising, since this is absolutely the toxic male demographic to blame that encourages these studios to make the wrong decisions many times way too often. I think it's disgustingly unfair for what Disney did to the Marvels, Echo, and now in my case with She-Hulk Season 2, of how these characters are just getting snubbed one after the other, and putting actresses like myself out of work, when beforehand it came with promises that ended up being false promises. And that's not how a studio should work, especially Disney and Marvel Studios. As an actress who supports new characters like Ironheart, Echo, and She-Hulk, just to name a few, women truly are the future of the MCU, and it couldn't be any more clear how afraid male fans are about that push that Disney tried to make, and are still attempting to do to this day. They seem to celebrate when a film that stars women fail. They like to blame an agenda, but there never is an agenda. Something that I believed in, and quite frankly Bob Iger did too, was that these films, and films like those, would succeed. I think the issue just comes down to a marketing mishap. This is why our films and shows aren't really meeting the goals that Disney and Marvel hoped for. It's an issue I would bring up to Kevin many times, especially with She-Hulk, that needed to get it out there. But it's also a fan issue at the core. You have such a toxic side of the Marvel community. I see it with this, and I also see what happens with Star Wars. So it's a universal thing with this whole side of fans. Fandom culture is truly a toxic thing, and I would advise any actresses getting involved in this career, in this demanding career, to shift away from superhero films and projects, because you will find yourself out of work at the flick of a switch once these entitled fans speak up and encourage studios to make the worst calls possible. Now guys, let me say one thing about Tatiana again before I move on. She continues to point the finger at male fans who have a problem with agenda-driven garbage by Disney and Marvel, that fans have an issue with their deliberate plan to exclude male characters being portrayed the way that they should be from the comic source material. And look, I mean, this is not a big shocker coming out of Tatiana Maslany. She always attacked the fans. She did remain quiet for a while, where you started to think to yourself, alright, maybe Tatiana is watering down on this now, but nope. She continues to blame the fans, no more than how Brie Larson did, Phoebe Waller-Bridge did with Indiana Jones 5, and of course what the cast members, at least some of them, did with Madame Web. So it's not a big shocker there. You know, I think at the end of the day, they realize that the MCU is their bread and butter, alright? Brie Larson, of course, in this case, Tatiana Maslany, the same exact thing goes there. She too believes that the MCU was like the core of her career, and you know what? It really was at the end of the day. I mean, that's what they were trying to do, is to give Tatiana this big multi-contract deal for both film and television within the MCU. They were going to do the same exact thing with Brie Larson, and that all went south. That went sour as well. That's why they're so bitter right now and pointing the finger at fans for making them seem like they're the puppets controlling the studios. Look, I've seen this bounce back and forth many times. You know, the studios, they want to still push this nonsense agenda of, you know, just female-driven characters just for the sake of doing it, and at the same exact time, they keep failing. And yet the actresses are blaming, you know, in this case, both the studios and the quote-unquote toxic fans. But let's get into the next thing here. So she goes on to conclude, I hold my criticism about Bob Iger of what he did during the strikes and after the strikes, and I think serious changes need to be made to cater to women more properly for the actresses getting hired. Things just need to be marketed better. I only hope Ironheart does well and succeeds to show the toxic side of this community, that female roles can truly and are the goldmine of the MCU to change things up. We don't need characters like Iron Man or Thor anymore. It's time to make things different. So there you have it again, Tatiana saying, oh, you like Iron Man, you like Thor, you like Hulk, blah 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 blah. Put that to the wayside, throw it in the garbage, let's focus on the female roles now. You see this time and time again with these actresses that kind of act like, you know, it's been long overdue, and Leslie Headland of Lucasfilm has said stuff like that, that it's been long overdue for females to get these significant roles. And I just always like to throw out examples out there. You got characters like Sarah Connor, Ellen Ripley, I mean, the list goes on, Beatrix Kiddo. That's just to name a few there right off the bat of the more known characters, you know, that we have seen in recent years. And it really is something that you have to bring up because it really debunks everything that they're saying. That female roles are disregarded, when in reality they're not. Males, you know, just really do not like this pushed agenda by the studios. So anyway, guys, you know, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.